Welcome to Red Pill University. I'm your host, Jody. I am joined with Mike. Class is in session. So it's been a minute. We inadvertently missed last week, overcome by events. It happens. So anything you want to catch up on?
Me personally, no. It's been an interesting 2 weeks, but I think the fun thing about having gone through all the advanced level stuff is now we have kind of some freedom to open the conversation up a little bit and talk about some real practical stuff, because I think we've laid a ton of foundation.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So for those that are watching, if you've been living under a rock, you may not have heard of her. Let me bring this slide up here. Tomi Lahren, she's a Fox contributor. She kind of put her foot in her mouth, and she doubled down over the weekend too. And I'm not going to play the video. There's no point.
Yeah, it's going to be actually a new segment. We're talking about we're trying to relate the stuff that we're talking about every week to what's going on now.
Mm-hmm. A lot of this stuff, we're going to start pulling examples from our real lives, from the community that we've got over on Discord, from subreddit, from Reddit, and other places in general, to kind of relate this back to you, the viewer, and kind of give you real world examples of how this stuff applies. So, and then tonight's example is Tomi Lahren. So, gist of it was, she made a video on Facebook or Instagram, one of the two, deriding guys for basically not being the beta providers that she expects now that she's approaching the wall. She's approaching 30. All the stereotypes are happening in real time in front of us. So as you can see in the picture right here, she's had some work done, and more power to her. She's cleaned up her act. That's fine. But the point of this is
there's no ugly people, only poor people, right?
Yeah. Just kind of a living example right here. Yeah. But the whole reason that we're talking about her tonight is we're not going to go into a deep dive into what happened. The gist of it was she dumped her fiance, who bought her a ring worth up to $50,000. And the thinking is she was just branch swinging. She got plated by some guy who was dating younger girls and her, or one of her friends is the scuttlebutt. Either way, she got pissed off, made this rant, and a lot of it was just projection on her own part. And then here you can see, even though she's what we call a conservathought, she is, just like all the other women out there. These are her own texts or tweets going back a few years when she was a little bit younger. Standard stuff you'd expect to see. No big deal. So the idea is here that even though she's on Fox and she's a conservative pundit, she's just like everybody else. All right. Mm-hmm. Oops, wrong button there.
Well, yes and no. The exception is, this is what happens when this is what happens when you just have rampant entitlement, right? Like her sense of celebrity and all this stuff. Like she's got to have a massive ego on her. And I mean, look, everybody struggles with ego issues, but like it strikes what little bit I've seen of it, it strikes me as just a crazy amount of entitlement on her part as to what she thinks she and her friends deserve.
Well, I don't think it's much to do with her celebrity. I think it's just the celebrity doesn't form the minimum, the barrier to entry. No pun intended. And it's it's hypergamy is all it is. Hypergamy 101. The higher up they climb the socioeconomic ladder, the higher the bar gets raised. The guy that she was with wasn't doing it for her because now she's a Fox contributor. He's a wannabe politician. I don't know the rest of his background. I think he worked for a nonprofit. He's got some money to his name. He actually was able to.
I thought he was an NFL contract negotiator.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I very briefly looked at it.
Clearly, we did our research for this piece.
Yeah. But the point being here is the guy bought her a ring. Okay. And she's like, nah, I can do better over here. And then she moved, and that was that.
My guess would be we don't have the full story on this.
No, I don't think we'll ever have the full story, but we can just kind of read between the lines of what was going on. And I think it was Daily Mail. I dug up an article on that a while back, and it kind of made the rounds. You're welcome. And they pointed out, like, her own friends were quoted saying that, it was an amicable thing. She just wasn't feeling it. She dumped him. And women don't generally dump a guy. unless they've already branch swinging 101. They've already got their eyes set on somebody else. Well, fast forward a few months later, out comes the rant. You put 2 and 2 together. I think we kind of see what happened there.
It sounds like she was trying to branch swing and that branch broke, and now she's unhappy because she has no options instead of one option or another option. She's got 0 options. So that's what it sounds like happened. But it doesn't matter whether it happened or not. The reality is like this happens actually in real life.
Oh yeah,
it's an anecdote for sure. The corollary to that is like, if let's assume that this guy that she was with actually dumped her, right? Like you can be, she's obviously, a lot of guys think she's really super attractive. You could be a really well-renowned, celebrity status person, be super attractive, have a lot of validation and attention, and a guy could literally just have a better option and move on to that. And so everything you're seeing is like, Rollo talks about this all the time. This is a common saying, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, right? And it sounds like that's what happens based on her reaction.
Yeah, and if you actually go and watch the actual full thing she did, she projects pretty clearly what happened. And it was the fact that she calls out 21-year-old women that guys go after. She calls them Tatianas.
Oh, man.
Clearly, there is a very specific example that happened. So somebody got branched or got plated, and there was a 21-year-old in the picture that made them kind of touch on that on that aspect of it.
Whenever somebody says something that's that specific, my first thought is like, who hurt you? What happened? Like what happened? Oh man. So,
I think we kind of covered this one to death. Other people have covered it to death. I don't think there's any more need to go into this. I think we're ready for the show notes. What do you think?
Yeah, you wanted to relate it back to a couple of things.
We're going to get into that, I think, as we get through towards the end. Mm-hmm. Because just make a note right here that she is not the goody two-shoes, conservative, nice girl that a lot of guys might have in their head about these conservative commentators. So,
it's 2 things. Number 1 is they're idealizing women. Shocker.
Pedestalizing for sure.
Yeah, like totally. Yeah. And then secondly, she, everybody has this face that they show people that's not their actual self, right? And everybody does that. Not just Tomi Lahren, but she's a celebrity, so she has to have like probably a certain presentation and things like that for her career. But everybody has that mask that they put on that they want everybody else to see. So that's that's your little piece of advice is, it's one of the No More Mr. Nice Guy breaking free exercises. Like, what do you care about other people seeing you a certain way? Like, why are you so invested in other people's perceptions of yourself? Yep. And unfortunately, it sounds like she really is.
All right. So we are going to move on to tonight's actual course. So unplugging, it generally follows the 5 stages of grief. And just really quickly, how is my mic coming across on you?
It's coming across just fine.
Okay. So I don't really hear it. My headset for night, whatever.
Gorgeous.
Reason.
You sound gorgeous.
All right. So anyways, we're going to follow, just kind of dive in. There's these 5 stages of unplugging from the matrix, and it follows the 5 stages of grief. So you've got your denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. And acceptance is what we're going to talk about in a second. It kind of relates back to Tomi Lahren, where you just got to accept women for what they are. Even though she is this hot 20-something, presented as a conservative, whatever, the tweets, the way she puts herself out there on Instagram, no. She's not, that's a role she's playing. Judge women based on their actions, not on what they say. All right? So you got to accept them for who they are.
A lot of guys struggle with every different part of this. So we're going to break this down in detail. And I should note before we go through it, this is the 5 emotional stages. There are intellectual stages of really it has to do with, mastering the intellectual piece and internalizing a lot of these lessons. So you have the beginner level, the intermediate level, where you're really focused on consistency, and the advanced level where you start to be more self-actualized, and then your mastery, the last part of it on an intellectual level, is when you can understand these lessons and apply them to other people. Yep. And that's kind of the goal. So that's the intellectual piece. We're not going to cover that in detail tonight, but I just wanted to make a quick note and distinction between the intellectual and the emotional piece there.
And before we go any further, if you like this kind of content, hit the like button, smash that notification bell.
If James were here, he would say jackhammer that like button.
There you go. Yeah. And then also comments, post your comments down below. Super chats are enabled. If you don't want to wait till the end of the show, then we'll address comments on the fly as they come in. Mm-hmm. All right. So moving on. So denial. I'm just going to read these off for our podcast listeners. So the 5 stages: denial. Women aren't like that. They're people just like everyone else. Treat them all as individuals, and you're sure to find the right one. The second quote here is from Rollo. These game guys are a bunch of clowns. There's no way this works on women. Women aren't stupid. What a bunch of misogynists. This is deflecting, denial. There's a lot of different terms for it. And they're kind of disqualifying, almost like mate guarding in a sense, where guys are seeing these guys who are going out, doing the work to improve their lives, and then they're kind of crab bucket mentality, the guys that are doing that. Similarly, they're trying to special snowflake the girls. Oh, no, they don't fall for this stuff. No, it's people are what they are. We're going to get into the acceptance later, but yeah, people deny what it's ego protection is what it comes down to.
I think it's more than just ego protection. They're deeply, deeply programmed. I mean, yes, I'm not disagreeing. Ego protection is a thing, but
yeah,
they're deeply, deeply programmed to be invested in these beliefs, and that is ego investment. But it's also this social programming. Like they see real consequences that have to do with stuff external to themselves, right? Like they see social shaming for guys that aren't like doing the right thing and stepping up as a man and treating women the way that they're supposed to be treated. And for the people on the podcast, I'm using air quotes pretty heavily right now, because obviously what we're talking about is just these different ideas that don't go in line with the commonality of like, oh, just put women up on a pedestal type thing.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to the I forget what the blog was, but they had like all these different color codes for feminist shaming language. And it kind of connects to this a little bit. Getting back to the notes. Anything else on denial?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Next up is anger. What the fuck? Bitches are all like this. They have no honor, no loyalty. They don't really love anyone but themselves. Blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, it's the anger stage. A lot of guys get stuck in. They join this community. They spurg out on a bunch of really nasty stuff. And it's just a phase that a lot of guys go through. Another quote here from Rollo. This is ridiculous. Why should I have to jump through all of these hoops for women? I just want to be myself. Why couldn't I have been a natural alpha? I blame my parents, my siblings, my teachers, God, liberals, feminists, media, society. They blame others and on and on and on. It's nobody else's fault, or it's not their fault. It's always somebody else's.
This is a lot of anger has to do with the victim mentality. That's really interesting that you point that out. And obviously Rollo, spot on in terms of hitting that nail on the head. But the other piece of it is like this idea that you just having people accept you for who you are. Well, if who you are is just a lazy, boring person, then you shouldn't reasonably expect people to be attracted to you or want to hang out with you or want to spend time with you. It's just not in the cards.
Yep. And also, we do have a special kind of bro tip at the end for those that stay with us. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. So we got a little something in store. Don't worry. That is the anger stage kind of encapsulated right there. So, and I want to talk about this, just really put a spotlight on it. This is what got the Red Pill subreddit into a lot of trouble. Why it got quarantined is a lot of guys, they come in oftentimes after some sort of negative event in their life, typically getting cheated on or a breakup, and they're already angry. So they come in there and then they just let off steam. And people holding that up as an example of and making that, pretending that is representative of the community, doesn't do anybody any justice. It's disingenuous. It's not arguing in good faith. Mm-hmm. So that's where we see a lot of these problems and a lot of these issues with the perception of what it is to, unplug or take the red pill, all these different terminologies.
I think this is the biggest part of incel culture, and there's an article over on MRP about understanding the anger phase that I think was, Man in the World. We reference him a lot because I love his stuff. But the piece of this that he talks about is, if men are socially conditioned to have anger and utilize it, and the reason why we have that is because for tens of thousands of years, anger was effective. Anger and intimidation and violence was an effective way to get what you wanted a long, long time ago, back when we were chucking spears at each other. So, that conditioning is down there. That's in the animal brain. And in reality, in the modern era, it doesn't work because it's not a credible threat. You have absolutely nothing to really translate that anger into kind of a real and credible, tangible threat to somebody most of the time. Most modern day guys aren't like that. They're not going around starting fights, knocking people out. And I'm not saying you should do that. What I'm saying is anger is pointless because it only hurts you and it's not going to get you what you want.
Yep. All right. I think we've covered anger pretty well. Also, just to throw this out there again, since we forgot to do the call to the action earlier, we have a nonprofit, it's a 501c7, a fraternal organization that is a blend of a college fraternity and something like Freemasons. Mm-hmm. So right now our fraternity portal is over on Discord. The link is down below. If you would like to join us proper, go on over to the Patreon link. It's, I think, $5 a month for the new members. And then also, if you were with us previously, let us know. We can work something out with you for being one of the early adopters. But the main thing is we do watch parties. We've got, I think, a half dozen private commentary tracks now that we've laid down for various AAA films. Mm-hmm. I think the last one we just did was, oh my God, I just went blank on the name.
Hitch.
Yes, Hitch.
We do private Q&As. We do group calls. We do mentoring. We do just general group discussion. A lot of stuff that we do on there.
A lot of peer-to-peer discussion, a lot of peer-to-peer mentoring. I've learned from our members. They've learned from us. It's a very dynamic, hybrid way of going about it. Right now, we can't really do much in person because the virus is still an issue. But once that ends, we're going to start hosting in-person events, probably starting here in the Mid-Atlantic region. What's that?
We're going to take it offline. We're going to try and connect people up for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Next stage is, I got to click on it. There we go. Bargaining. So from the notes here, if I work really hard and I learn all the pickup moves, then at least I'll get laid. Well, maybe it does have some good points, but forget the hot girls. They're way out of my league. I'll give it a try if it can help me get around the bases with a plain Jane. Do I have to wear the fuzzy hat and black nail polish?
Yeah,
I think the one down below here is where a lot of men this is where a lot of guys do get stuck and they fail. They come into this community. They're looking for these magic pills, a silver bullet that's going to answer all their prayers and just give them all the cheat codes that will unlock girls' pants.
I can't stress this enough. That's what 90% of guys are looking for. They all just want cheat codes. They want the easy way to do it. And let me just dispense with that myth right now. There is no easy way. If you want to become a guy that sets yourself apart from other people, if you want to be in the top X%, right? You want to be in the top 10% of guys, of your peers. That means you look around a room of 10 people and you're the best guy there. You got to do the work, man. That's it.
You got to do the work. And guess what? Life isn't fair. Sometimes, even if you do the work, you're never going to meet or reach that echelon of guys. Mm-hmm. Yeah, some guys I'm short. I cannot be 6'4" no matter what I do. So I'm not going to ever get those natural benefits of that taller guys enjoy. Life ain't fair. Not everybody gets to be an astronaut. So adapt and overcome.
The interesting thing is the bargaining stage is so tough. The anger stage is tough for guys because there's, I don't know if anybody knows this, but there's more than one of them, especially the guys that are in LTRs or the guys that are married. Like, anger will pop up over and over again, and you got to deal with that, and you got to figure out like what that's revealing for you. But we already covered anger. So the point I'm trying to make with bargaining is this is where guys like really don't absorb all the lessons, and they think like, oh, maybe if I can just take a couple pieces of this and I can get all the results without having to really actually believe all the things that these guys are trying to tell me. And a lot of people, I think it was, I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Bobby Peru on MRP. He said, like, he refers to this as trying to use RP tactics to basically get a blue pill result.
Right.
And it's not realistic. It's not possible. You cannot accept half of the premise and get all of the results. It's not possible.
And this is also where a lot of guys will find setbacks, where whether it be the red pill, PUA stuff, what have you, where they try it, they fail because they haven't gone through the full self-improvement process, and then they kind of regress back to the anger phase. So they'll be part blaming the guy or the girls, the women, and then they'll also be part blaming the teachers, the mentors that they were learning from, the techniques, whatever it might be. So it's never their fault. It's the other stuff's problem.
Yeah. So, how do you know if you are bargaining? Well, step one is you expect a certain result given a certain amount of work, right? And this will kick guys back to the anger phase a number of times, right? Is they'll get to a certain point and they'll go, you know what? I'm down to 12% body fat. I'm dressing well. I'm making good money. Why am I not getting the results I want? And they're angry about it. And what does that reveal? That reveals the internal covert contract that you had about, well, I expected XYZ and I didn't tell anybody that, and the world doesn't owe me that. And that's my fault. That's on me. But they don't actually internalize that, and they don't have that recognition, generally speaking. And that's the only way to push past this.
And what you just said, though, is so absolutely integral to this community that guys need to really just accept. There's a little acceptance phase of this piece of it right here. Just because you did the work doesn't mean you're going to get a result. Again, life ain't fair. You've got to go through the entire process. There's more to it than just losing the weight and going out and approaching. So you're not guaranteed results, and nor does anybody owe you any success or results. So, and we're going to get more into that in just a second. All right, depression. This is you can kind of see how this flows. So, guys that start on getting some sort of success, maybe it's not the success, the degree of which that they wanted. Maybe they start realizing that life's not fair. They start getting down on themselves. The notes right here, getting laid by shallow, obnoxious women has become dull and unrewarding. And there's no sense looking for a unicorn. Maybe I'll just be MGTOW. I'll go monk mode, what have you. I think the Rollo quote here is, wow, women really respond to this puffed up act, and guys spend big bucks on it and wind up with more ass than a toilet seat. And I just joined up for this. The world is sad, and so am I. It's kind of this disenfranchising of finding that women actually do respond well to certain things. A lot of that's the dark triad stuff. Some of it's the PUA gimmicky stuff that actually does work in some aspects. So it's really tough to accept that these things that you may have held up in your mind as being bad, wrong. Yeah, it's like, no, you were wrong. You had these negative assumptions because you didn't go out and you didn't test it. You don't have that life experience to accept things for what they are.
Yeah. You didn't, and of course everybody wants to learn the lesson the easy way. And I can't blame you for, people give you advice and say, oh, you should do this. Like you should go to school. You should study hard. You should find a nice girl. You should go take her out. Be respectful to her. You do X, Y, Z, all these things. And you just absorb them. And you never, ever question whether or not that's really in line with what you want, or if that's in your best interest, or even if it's effective. and you don't use your basic observation skills. We say this to guys all the time, right? Like, Joe, I wish I had a number for how many times you said this to a guy of like, go out and try it. It's like, just see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, don't do it. Like, just take what works, leave the rest. And more often than not, guys come back and they're like, oh, wow, like this really actually got me closer to what I wanted.
And I'm just kind of put a finer point on this as well. When you try something, you don't do it once or twice. The bare minimum is 30 times. Because that's how much it takes to be statistically relevant. Mm-hmm. So you've got to do something at least 30 times before you can really get a firm idea of whether or not it's going to work for you or not.
Yes, too small a sample size if you get disheartened after talking to 4 people.
Yeah. So because that's just raw statistics. 101 right there. Minimum of 30.
But this is the other stage guys get stuck in, right? They'll either fall back to the anger phase or they'll proceed directly to the depression phase and this existential dread. This is how you get like angry incels and stuff like that, is you get these guys with anger and depression, and they don't sadly they don't know how to deal with their feelings. They don't know how to deal with their feelings and beliefs, and if they just gave up the belief that they had of the world owes me X, right? We talked about entitlement earlier on in the show. Is you cannot go through the world with this crazy sense of entitlement. You are entitled to nothing.
Yep. And with that, acceptance. Mm-hmm. So women aren't bad. It's your expectations of them and theirs of you. Everything was based on a faulty premise. They are creatures of instinct, just like men, but of different instincts. If I learn what their instincts are and teach them about men's, we can develop realistic expectations of one another and get along just fine. The Rollo quote here is, maybe this is the way things really work. I guess I should give up the gender relations mythology I've been holding on to. Mm-hmm. Hey, what do you think of these negs I came up with? He's got some older data, but it's funny.
Man, I want to touch on the first bullet point here, because all of the feminists and the blue pill people that catch this content are never ever going to look at this and go, oh wow, like that's actually a really reasonable take, is that we're driven by we're driven by evolution and all of our biology over tens and hundreds of thousands of years that's driven us toward propagating the species, right? And we are sexually attracted to each other. That's just a reality. But we have different instincts, right? And I think that's realistic to consider. It's realistic to consider that men and women are more different than they are alike. And that's one core, for me, that's one core tenet of the red pill, that like, if you don't accept that, if you think that men and women are largely the same, it's not going to work out for you, man. Like, you're not going to get that. You're not going to understand polarity. You're not going to understand that there are just certain things that that are fundamentally different that play into attraction. And once you accept those things, then you're going to have a much better time.
Man, so one of the best things I've ever heard of, it was years ago. And it's just a really good way, I like it, of describing humans, right? We're all just chimps, but we're chimps with little superchargers strapped to the front of our foreheads or our brains. Mm-hmm. And that's our, the cerebral cortex. But all the rest of it, man, we're just like, if it wasn't for that, we'd be out there just going crazy like in the animal kingdom. That's all it is. We are still a part of the animal kingdom. People forget that. We're just like all the rest.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
There you go. This is all. We're all.
Look, everybody wants to feel safe. Everyone wants to feel loved. Like, come on. It's just men and women want that in different ways. That's it.
You got it. So, and this is one of the things. Before we get into the next bit, it's this stuff is fluid. So it's not like sexual fluidity of gender and all that shit. No, I'm talking about you can be in the anger phase and then go forward to the depression phase, or you can be in the acceptance phase and slide backwards. People move from one to the next all the time. So it's one of those things where if you get into a rut, if you stop moving forward in the personal development kind of life cycle, it's very easy to slide backwards. So this is one of the dangers of monk mode or going MGTOW. You can stagnate or slip backwards. So just be mindful that it's very easy to happen once you're out of the game. And I think this has been really, really tough on a lot of folks being stuck at home, man, with this whole this quarantine shit. It's not good for people's mental health, and especially in this respect. But there's a whole aspect of stuff that's been we're going to have a lot of unintended consequences for years.
Sure.
Psychologically,
economically.
Yep.
I totally agree with you.
I just saw a thing came out of Sweden's, their version of the CDC, and they came out today and said, if you're 69 or younger, the official numbers now are 0.1% fatality rate. If you're 70 or over, it was like 4.5 something, 4 something percent.
It's tons higher. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is not, basically it's, if you're young or if you don't have a lot of issues, it's no more dangerous to you than the flu.
Well, if you're high risk, right? Like if you have,
then you should stay home, wear your mask, don't open the door for strangers, absolutely protect yourself.
Yeah. And the other piece of it is, without getting off on a COVID-19 tangent here, but we've never talked about this on the show. So like a little bit of latitude here, but the reality is, like, I'm not worried about myself. I'm worried about like my family members that are elderly, or, the people that I'm in contact with that may be immunocompromised or pregnant,
right,
or what have you. It's not me that I'm worried about. It's me passing something along to them, because it is very dangerous for certain populations.
Yep. Yeah, that's absolutely reasonable. And if you are in one of those situations, definitely look out for one another.
Yeah.
I think if you're not in that kind of a situation, if you are young, you're living away from family, and you're just a young professional
living
going
a
about your life,
lifestyle, with no previous health risks, then you're probably okay.
Yeah, that's what we're finding out now. So, we'll see where it goes. But do you want to do the honors of our
Pew, pew, pew. There you go.
All right. Bro tip number 3. I'm just going to give you just a tip. All right.
Bam.
You can't get the hottie until you appease the naughty. I came up with this 22 years ago. And I didn't realize back then the importance of this stuff until like 2007, 2008, 2009.
20 years ago when you were 26.
Ew, don't get me going. Younger than that. But yeah, it was one of those observations we made when we ran Good Game. And we'll move on to the next point here.
This is legit. This is group dynamics 101.
It is. So you've got to win over the entire group before you're going to have permission, in a sense, to talk to the girl that you're really interested in. If you're in a mixed kind of group, men and women, you're going to have to get the lay of the land, figure out who's with who, and also treat the guys as your avenue for entry. It's a lot easier to talk to guys in a group and then get brought into the group than it is to walk straight up to the hottest girl in the group, where all the other guys are probably like, they want their shot too if they're not with her yet. So yeah, you got to be mindful of the group dynamics. Mm-hmm. Now, in a social setting, which is kind of tough to do right now, but think of it in a regular sense, bar, club, what have you, you're going to see a group of people. Typically, 1 or 2 people in that group are going to be bored on the fringes, looking around the venue. That's the person that you go and approach. You talk to them. You meet the group. You get integrated with the group. You merge your friends over and you merge the groups. That's how this all plays out. This is group dynamics 101. So I don't want to belabor the point here, but yeah, treat guys like the ugly girls you're not attracted to. Those are usually going to be the girls on the fringes who are bored, because the hot girls are getting all of the attention. That's just the way it works. So kind of weave your way into the group. That's just one way of going about it. Now, wings obviously are incredibly helpful, where they can kind of keep the group occupied, where you can then go and take your shot with the girl that you're really interested in. Mm-hmm. So, and who knows, maybe it is one of the girls that you're really interested in is the one on the wing, on the fringe, who is bored because maybe everybody else is married and she's the only single girl there.
Yeah, don't underestimate running game on the friend, even if it's the far less attractive friend. And here's why. What we talked about earlier on in the stream actually, or I think it was on the pre-show, actually works in terms of female ego. Everybody's got ego, right? But women, when it comes to wanting to feel attractive, if they see you talking to their friend who is objectively less attractive than them, they're going to wonder, like, why is he not talking to me? Like, this is an attractive guy. Use hypergamy to your advantage. That's this is like going in the side door, guys. Talk to her friend, game her friend, game her friend. That's, even if she's the grenade, right? Like, you don't have to send if you don't have a wingman, like, talk to her. Absolutely.
Now, you got to be careful, because you can very quickly come off as being genuinely not interested in the girls, and then they're just going to shut down. But if you are giving them the eye contact, if you're kind of, there's nonverbal cues that you're going to cue that you're just kind of like going through the paces. They're going to know it. You're going to know it. You're maintaining plausible deniability. Don't be a dick. Actually be nice and interested in the people you're talking to. But yeah, if you're eye coding the girl and you're catching glances, you can kind of feel when it's on. That's when it's time to kind of move on. And I see a lot of guys, when they do this kind of side door approach, like you were saying, they stay way too long on this one person.
Yeah, you got to talk to a number of people. You absolutely got to. Well, Joe, you say this all the time. Is like, engage everyone in the group. Yeah, you have to do that.
And I got that from it was a speech class in college. So whenever you go and you give a speech, you're going to give like a heartbeat's worth of eye contact to everybody in the room as you kind of scan the everybody that's there in your audience. You kind of do the same thing with group dynamics. And then again, this is where we kind of go back to the 101 stuff. You want to lock in, have that power position where the group is then looking at you, not you're the odd man out talking to the entire group. You want them, like, you want to be the celebrity on stage that everybody is there to view, witness, hear, speak, or you're the rock star the band that everybody went to go see. When you can shift the dynamic to have that element, man, life is so much easier. So I think we have covered all of these class material for tonight. We can kind of roll through these comments and then head back over to Discord for the after show. Thankfully, this is actually a pretty quick episode. All right. So
I think we got a number of questions, though, that are actually pretty relevant questions.
Yep. Shibbity dibbity. I'll put this on the screen here. So in the modern dating scene, women will only sleep with men so far above their standing, they would never settle down with them. Yes, for relationships, not necessarily true for hooking up. Sometimes girls need a slump buster too.
Yeah, I think women are realistic about, like, they want the validation and attention from a really, high status or alpha dude. And even if it means they're not going to commit to him, like, they want that hit of, oh, guess what kind of guy I got to pull.
Yes, but it's also the same thing with like Instagram. If they've got a big following and it's 1,000 guys liking their pictures, they don't care that it's 1,000 dorks.
Yeah,
pussy begging. They care that they got 1,000 likes. It's also a little bit of competition with other women for ego.
This is validation and attention.
Yeah. So, and it's that jockeying for the social hierarchy.
Yeah, for sure.
So women do this stuff all the time. You see this. I don't want to get into this. It's nasty stuff, man. It's a real dark kind of path to go down when you see how what Instagram does to people when they get some degree of notoriety. Well, we just saw it with this whole Tommy Lahren thing. The ego gets bloated. It makes them not have realistic expectations. And then when some guy does happen to have game or does have a lot of status and they plate them along with a 21 or 22-year-old and they realize that their time's being wasted if they're looking for a relationship. Yeah, it's never it's not a good outcome. So SD, he met a good girl in the sense that she was not malicious, which was a blessing. He got to see a Walt from a girl who was basically unconscious.
I don't know what that second part means.
Yeah.
The first part's interesting because, this you want to put a value on it and say, like, oh, this is a good girl in the sense that she's not malicious. Like, this stuff is subconscious, guys. Like, women don't go out there like, oh, I'm gonna screw this guy over. the vast majority of them don't. It's just this subconscious, like, hey, is he my best option? Like, what am I leaving on the table if I commit to this guy? Like, these are subconscious thoughts that they have, and it's natural thoughts of, what is this person going to commit to me? Like, every guy, we talked about this on one of the previous streams, the Georgia.
Thoughts as in thinking, not THOTs.
Yes, all correct. Right. Thoughts, yeah. like things that pop into your head. But look, every guy has that's kind of been approaching a certain length of time of being with a woman has gotten this conversation of like, what is this? What are we? And whenever that happens, come back to these videos, right? Because that is going to be your indicator of exactly what is going on in her head. She's trying to consolidate on a guy, right? She wants that commitment. She wants that attention. She wants that validation, but she also wants the commitment, and she wants the comfort and the security, and she wants the excitement. They want everything, which can you blame them? Can you blame them? You really can't.
And I love that. It's a really good quote that women are the gatekeepers of sex. Men are the gatekeepers of commitment. Mm-hmm. That really pisses a lot of people off for some reason when I say that. Yeah. It's a self-evident truth. You look around, you see it. At least for the guys that have their shit together and they're like a top 10, top 20%er. Mm-hmm. They're the choosers when it comes to that. Because the world is their oyster when it comes to the women that they attract. Mm-hmm. So when women start getting a little bit older, they want these guys. These guys see their younger sisters or their daughters in many cases, and that's who they go for. This is what happened, I think, in this Tomi Lahren thing. That's my gut instinct of what happened. She branch swung for some guy. She swung for the fences. And he's like, no, you're my Thursday girl, but I've got a 21-year-old as my Friday girl. So take it or leave it.
Here's all the proof that you need that that men are the gatekeepers of commitment. Why would women ever need to pressure men to commit to them if men weren't the gatekeepers of commitment? They wouldn't need to. They wouldn't need to at all. It wouldn't be necessary.
Yep. It blows my mind how much. So I think I've said this before on the show as well. Do not settle down when you're in your 20s because you don't know that half of it. Your options are going to explode once you cross into your 30s. As a guy. Yeah. When you're in your early 20s, you're competing against all the guys in your age and guys Mike's age and all the guys my age. When you get to go into your 30s, into your 40s, your dating market options are going to just double, if not triple. So when you're in your 20s, say you're 25, you can date 18 to 25, 26, 27. You got 7, 8, 9 year window. Mm-hmm. When you're 43, come on, 18.
Yeah.
I cap it about 30.
2 decades worth.
If you want, yeah. You absolutely can. I have dated older, but
if you were willing to date older women, you could.
Were,
yeah.
In the last 5 years, I have dated from 19 to 44, thereabouts. Yeah, and from my experience, women don't change mentally. The key difference that I have experienced, is the amount of baggage and the physicality difference.
It's a hot take.
That's my experience. It's going to vary from person to person. Yeah. But in my experience, like the maturity level doesn't really, how can you date these girls who are 19, 20, 21, 22, your kid's age?
Because mentally they're not that
much different. There's no, yeah.
Look, and let's be fair here. A lot of people don't get past the teenage phase of their life, right? But
maybe, I mean, it could be also it's a selection issue, or there's a bias there, maybe. But who knows?
In my experience, it's a lot of women. A lot of women. Yeah. There's a reason we call them the oldest teenager in the house.
That's where my mind was going to right there. Yeah, but I want to get back to the questions here. We have
Let's do it.
Shibbity Dibbity. I love that name. What's wrong with the bargaining stage? Surely trying to figure out what you need to do in order to get the results you want is a healthy outlook on life. Well, that's not really what the bargaining stage kind of is. Mm-hmm. The bargaining stage is when you're kind of deluding yourself and trying to settle in a sense, or you're basically lying to yourself.
Yeah, and here's what I'm talking about. When I say, like, if you haven't internalized all these beliefs and then you're angry about not getting the results, that's not realistic. That's what I think is wrong with the bargaining stage. Is guys will blame the red pill for the things that they didn't do correctly, and I don't think it's realistic. But if you are the type of guy that says things like, well, maybe some of this is valid, okay, well then what you're going to get is some of the benefit, and or at best, right? And if that's you, here, let me take a chance to share a direct message that I had with another person on Reddit about it was like a purple pill debate thing, which I never do, but I was asked by another EC to engage with some of this stuff. So I sent a message to this guy on purple pill debate, and he asked me what these core beliefs of the red pill are. Right. So if you are bargaining, if you are struggling these beliefs, these are the big four for me, and it's hypergamy, gender polarity, sexual pluralism, and unconditional love. So if you are in the bargaining stage and you are to this question, Shibby Dibby's asking what's wrong with figuring out what you want in life, nothing wrong at all. But don't get stuck on these four and then get frustrated about the results. Here's the four questions. Do you think men and women are more similar or than they are different to each other? Secondly, do you believe in the idea of unconditional love? Thirdly, do you believe that there are benefits to a man having more power than a woman in a relationship? Fourth, do you believe the primary drivers of female attraction are wealth, power, strength, status, emotional resilience? If you believe, your answers to those questions basically tell you whether you're red pill or not. And let me just give you the answer, the answer key real quick. Obviously, we talked about on this stream a lot. Men and women are different from each other. We talked about it earlier tonight. What attracts them, we have different things that attract us, period. Unconditional love is for children, right? Period. That's it. The only person that the only people that get unconditional love are children. We've said this on the stream before. Men love idealistically, women love opportunistically. Mm-hmm. And that's been our experience. The third one, yeah, there are certain benefits to being a leader as a man in a relationship. And leadership, it confers.
Leadership has its privileges.
Leadership has one, it has its privileges, but also it confers a power structure. Mm-hmm. Like you are dealing in power dynamics, period. And just to accept that and be comfortable with it and say like, hey, I'm going to take this on. I'm going to take responsibility for this. We're talking about taking responsibility and accountability. That's what we're talking about. And then the fourth one is, the primary drivers of female attraction. Guys, if you don't think that women are attracted to wealth, go on Instagram. If you don't think that women are attracted to strength, show them a picture of Dwayne Johnson. You know what I mean? Like these are real obvious kind of examples of what is attractive.
Status. Yeah. Status. I've done 2, if not 3 episodes on status now for a reason. Mm-hmm. You pick up a magazine at the checkout counter. Why are you doing so? It's celebrities. If this was just a bunch of Joe Schmoes, no one would be buying that shit. Mm-hmm. Why do guys want to become rock stars? Because they get laid like rock stars. It's status. They're that guy on stage that everybody is there to see. So, yeah. Why is he on stage when he could just be working at a local pub doing a little, acoustic set? Mm-hmm. Why are they driving to be, this big, huge audience? I think it was guys who founded KISS. They were very upfront about it. How did we get laid? Well, I don't know. Let's get famous. Well, how did we get famous? I don't know. I can play a guitar. Sold. Let's go ahead and make a band. That's the rough outline of how KISS got started. Yeah. So it was all just they were trying to figure out a way to get laid easy.
Pretty much.
So, yeah.
So that's a long answer and breaks down the bargaining stage, but we had the time to do it, so I dove into that.
Yep. See, Red Squill. I like what was said about the internal covert contract relating to the stages. Looking back, I can see when I was in the bargaining stage now, it's much more clear to me. We've all been there at some point or another. It's just instinct. That's just the way it is. It's a process. Just be aware of it when you're establishing these covert contracts with yourself. This way you can kind of be honest with yourself up front, check that bullshit at the door, and recognize what you need to do to move forward. And again, it goes back to the acceptance. So men and women are different. We have different approaches. We have different instincts, different drives. There is some overlap, no question about it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, recognize what's different. Again, I've said this before as well earlier in the show that not everybody gets to be an astronaut. Life isn't fair. Adapt, and overcome. So improve what you can, minimize what you can't, and go from there.
Yeah. Look, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but women want a guy that's capable of leadership. Women want a guy that is attractive and has status and has all the other things that we talk about in the stream. Women, love opportunistically. And if you're their best option, you're in a good spot. If not, you're going to have a bad day. That's just reality.
Talking about something else that women really respond well to is the sense of provider, protector, the things that they feel for tall men naturally. I've talked about this as well. If you're short, you can trigger those same emotions if you get built, hit the gym, get wider. So if you have a very, very built frame, you can still elicit those same emotions that taller guys benefit from naturally. So again, it gets back to doing the work, fixing the shortcomings that you may have naturally, and everybody's going to have them. Not everybody's born like Brad Pitt. Hell, even Brad Pitt wasn't born like Brad Pitt. He had to do the work. So he's got the benefit of genetics, but diet and exercise, he still had to do that shit. All right. So talent without effort is just, it's meaningless. All right. That's a really short version of a really good quote that I can't think of off the top of my head, but it's, I'll throw it down in the description later. Let's make a note of this too. We always talk about putting stuff into the description and we forget. Mm-hmm. This was 5150.
Well, you forget. I don't have access to the description, so blame. Yeah. I'm putting this on Joe.
All right. Well, if we do say we're going to do something in the description and we forget, remind us. We'll look it up and we'll add it later.
Yep.
All right. Add the quote.
Post in the comments below if Joe forgot to link something.
Oh, I'm bad at that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We'll throw it out there. We can always respond to it. If you
we got another comment too. So SD responded to Red Squirrel. I thought I was red pilled and didn't realize I was hamstering. Oof. It was the good girl, not my literal prostitute cheating ex, who finalized the red pill. Wow.
Ooh, that's a big oof.
It was the good girl, not my literal prostitute cheating ex who finalized. There's a little anger stage for you right there.
Crow, I've been there. Ooh. I've been there. I had a cheating ex. I've been there. Can I just get a F in the chat real quick? My God, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, man. But like, these lessons are tough, and I hate to be the guy to drill it into you boys, but that's it. That's reality.
All right, so I think we have covered all of the show notes. We've gone through all the comments. I am pretty happy with this one.
We went through the YouTube comments. We didn't go through the Discord comments. Do we want?
Oh my God, are there comments over there too?
Yeah, there's a couple good questions. Let me.
Oh shit, I wasn't. Sorry guys, I wasn't paying attention to that.
Yeah, I'm on it. That's why I'm here. That's why you pay me the big bucks. Just kidding. Joe keeps all the money. Let me go through a couple of these real quick. A great question. How can you accelerate the process of getting out of the anger phase? Joe, you want to take this one?
This is a complicated question. How do you get over the anger phase? Really, it's just kind of drilling it in repetition, recognizing that it's man.
I think
that's a tough one. Yeah.
It is. Man in the World had a recent post on this, like I said earlier. The reality is anger is a failed strategy in the modern era, guys. Like anger in the modern era, it's not effective. It doesn't get you what you want. You can't be angry and intimidate women into having sex with you. You just or giving you, whatever it is you want. You want them to just be in the kitchen all day making you a sandwich. It's not going to happen. Like getting angry is not a realistic strategy for that.
It's not. And recognizing that you have a problem is the first step in solving it.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to kind of dissect or we're going to dismantle this in a second here. But yeah, the gist of it is when you recognize that you're in that anger stage or you're having an issue with one of these aspects, dissect it. Why are you angry about this? What is, driving this process, this thought process? So think of it as it's why am I angry about something that she did that they almost all do? As soon as you can start breaking it down, recognizing that you have a problem, what's causing it, and then start looking for explanations of what's driving that behavior, not just from you, but from them. So
no, it's a great point. Anger will usually reveal something about yourself. And I think we're putting together 3 pieces to this. Number 1 is realize it's not effective. It doesn't get you anything that you actually want, because few people respond to anger unless you were actually threatening them and it's a credible threat. But secondly, you need to understand exactly where that anger is coming from, to Joe's point, and understand what belief that you had or what covert contract that you had that's driving that anger, and really work on that self-introspection to try and get rid of that belief. But thirdly, I would say is, oh man, I just lost it. Man, I had it in my head and I lost the third one.
Thirdly?
Yeah. Not only is it ineffective, but the third one is anger doesn't affect anybody else. Like it rarely impacts anybody else. It impacts you the most, right? And so living with anger is a lot like living with stress or cancer. It just kills you slowly. And I think, one of the better books that I've started to read recently is the Feeling Good Handbook, and it talks about anger and how to actually deal with it. And one of the tools that it talks about is actually accepting the fact that anger affects you far, far more than it affects anybody else. And resetting every day and letting go of that anger is just your path to kind of living better. So those are the 3 pieces I would say for kind of overcoming the anger phase. I think we covered that actually pretty well for a off the cuff question.
Yep. Let's see here. Women don't change mentally. I'm thinking more in the terms of emotional maturity.
Yep.
Yeah. They can get educated. They can grow in that sense, but 19 to 44, I'm not seeing this big gulf in maturity the way people project out that they expect you to see. No.
Another question, is unconditional love not for parents?
Well, I think the kids will have unconditional love for their parents, and then the parents will for their kids.
They will, but up to a certain age. At a certain age, you grow. Yeah, you grow. Joe knows this. Like Joe's got an older child than I have. I have a little girl, and she thinks I'm the best until she doesn't want me around anymore, and then she gets very upset because she doesn't want daddy. So the reality is, like, you grow up and you realize your parents are not perfect, and that love becomes conditional. Ultimately, like the unconditional piece of the love goes away. It just does. And for my daughter, it's gone at about 3 years old. Like, if daddy's not doing what she wants me to do, she doesn't want daddy. She doesn't love daddy.
I see you answered the question here in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. It was the good girl for me too. Even my mom wasn't enough. Wow. Oof. Yeah.
Thanks.
So Scepter makes a good point here. Imagine not using the anger to lift heavy weights. So if you can use your anger stage as a motivator for self-improvement.
Oh yeah.
It's just, you're taking that negative energy and you're finding an outlet for it. There's good ways of going about that, and there's bad ways of going about that. So hopefully gym and martial arts are 2 good examples.
You gotta find a positive channel for your anger, for sure. Make it constructive.
Absolutely. And if you want loyalty, get a dog.
Dogs are greater than women at loving. I mean, yeah, that is quite the bond. You can be if you want to be yourself, if you want to be accepted for who you are, get a dog. They love you for who you are. Women will not. They just won't.
Yeah, that's another version of unconditional love right there, is pets. So
yeah,
mostly dogs.
There you go.
Which are just kind of retarded cats.
And then a bunch of people are shocked in the comments that Joe has a kid. Yeah, Joe can procreate, guys. Joe's got a dick and balls like the rest of us. Amazing.
Somebody was asking. So yes, I have one and done, as far as I know.
It's more power to you.
Yeah. No, material is fun. All right.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not judging.
Yes, you are. I hear it.
No, kids are great. Kids are great.
No, it's yeah. So we're all, I think, cut from the same cloth in that sense. Where we're all, oh god, now they're going with the daddy shit again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what's his name? Dan Blitz
Bilzerian.
Dan Bilzerian.
One of these days you're gonna get it. One of these days you're gonna get it. Dan Bilzerian.
Yep. All right, so I think we are just cracked 1 hour. Again, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Head on over to the Discord where we do mentoring pretty much every day. We have we'll have monthly chats. We have our monthly events coming up eventually. We're looking to have our first official event probably in, I think we said the
springtime. We're going to be cloak and dagger about it. We're not going to announce it.
Well, I think we're going to do one more low key the later half of January.
Gotcha. Yes.
So, yeah, get the hell out of Maryland in the Mid-Atlantic. We'll go south somewhere, rent a yacht for a week or something like that. We'll have some fun.
Yeah, for sure. Somewhere sunny that doesn't have sick people running around all over the place, which is probably going to be nowhere by that time.
This whole thing about what we talked about a little bit ago, though, it got me thinking from a diabolical perspective. If we kind of just wait it out, property values are going to be really, really cheap in Florida. I mean, it is God's waiting room for a reason.
Ooh, as a former Floridian, that could not be more true. Yeah.
Sad but true. Yeah. There's a tactical angle there you can kind of think about. And the stocks. Oh my God, the stocks. Whew, the market has been great this week.
Mm-hmm.
So Tesla has gone up 29 and some change, 29%, 29% in like the last 5 days.
It's bonkers.
Unheard of.
Let's hit this in the after show.
Anyways, so let's wrap this up. So you guys know what to do. Head on over, hit the link down below for the Discord, and we'll see you there.
Peace.